The many differences this video has with every other one I made, I'm going to start by explaining that I'm reading a script right now. I'm making one of those videos right now. I imagine the title and thumbnail is in my usual idiotic style, so it's probably not going to be clear what the focus is, like at all. I'm actually here to talk about my favorite game of all time. Probably, it's kind of a toss-up. And another one that's very similar, I'm not sure if I'm going to put that one in here though. Probably will. It shouldn't be too long, maybe like another 40 minutes, right? We're all used to 40-minute videos. My closest friends probably know that I'm talking about 100% orange juice, but everyone else, yes, I'm talking about 100% orange juice. I'm going to be honest with you, chat. I've never wrote a script before. To start off the explanation, 100% orange juice is a party game really similar to Mario Party. The game's cast is pulled from other works by Orange Juice. Yeah, the name is based off of the game's developers, Orange Juice. Seeing as it's an amalgamation of all their works, it's a game that is 100% orange juice, or that's what I read was the reason why the name. And that kind of makes sense. Characters from Sora, Saguri, Flying Red Barrel, Xmas Shooting, etc. They're the main chunk of the cast. But OJ has its own characters in its universe. That's the main source of character releases as of recently, because there's DLC. It's a very old game. I think it came out like 2008. OJ is a game that I got my hands on for completely free. They released it for free as a stay-at-home initiative. I initially played it with some friends, only for it to become apparent after the first session I was the only person who was really lugging that shit. Hey, it's an acquired taste. So I decided to descend into the madness that is RNG hell all by myself. And that's where a good 400 of the hours that I've spent on this game come from, just me solo playing it, which should tell you how much I love it. OJ is a completely charming game that just took me over for a long time. So I fell in love with one of the characters. Her name's Tomomo. If you know me, you know me. I think it's time we start talking about the game though. What makes it different from Mario Party? What makes me love it so much? First of all, we're going to be here a while. So to be nice, I'm going to not over-explain anything and skip explanations that probably aren't needed. On the character select screen, there are more characters than any Mario Party has ever had. GG got him, OJ fans. We're up right now. Every character in 100% Orange Juice is wholly unique. I'll throw up 2 character cards to demonstrate. You see in OJ, there aren't forced minigames at the end of every full turn, like in Mario Party and a lot of other party games. This one, it's a little different the way it works. Instead, you fight your opponents to the death, and it's like to rob them of half their profits and just the glory of victory. The stats given to characters, as you saw on the cards, are the way in which they gain the edge in these fights. So we're going to elaborate on them. HP is obvious, so I'm going to start with attack. When you go to attack, you actually roll a 6-sided die. Your attack set is added to the resulting number. As you can see, even if I didn't show them before, I'll throw it up right now. There are negative numbers, which means the attack stat will go down in accordance to negative number you're adding. It makes sense. Defense is the next stat, but I'm going to talk about evade at the same time. When you are attacked, you naturally defend yourself by rolling a 6-sided die, but you have to choose whether to defend or evade. You are prompted to defend or evade after seeing your opponent's attack number. If you choose to defend, your defense stat is added to the resulting number. Of course, the numbers for defense and attack are compared. The defense is subtracted from the attack. The defender then takes the resulting number as damage. It is important to note that when defending, you will always take a minimum of 1 damage. So even if your defense is a 6 and your opponent's attack is a 1, you will always just take 1 damage. Also, even though there are negative numbers, you will not roll a 0. It will never be 0. Now, if you choose to evade instead of defend, the numbers are compared instead of subtracted. If the evade number is higher than the attack number, you just take no damage. You dodge it. It's an evasion, right? But if the attack is greater than or equal to, you actually just take the full damage of the attack. So you can either just avoid all damage with an evade, or you can mitigating it instead of just outright avoiding it. But for example, even if your evade stat is like -4, if your opponent rolls a 1 on attack, you still might as well evade, because if you defend, you'll still just take that 1 damage anyways. But if you evade, at least there's a slight chance that you dodge it, even if you literally have to roll a 6. The last stat is the rec stat, or it's short for recovery. This stat only applies once you die in combat or for other reasons that might happen. We'll get to them later. Once you die, on the start of your next turn after death, you are prompted to roll the dice. I say next turn after death because it's just the next time you're available after you're dead. You are prompted to roll a number. The number you roll is compared to your rec stat. If the number is greater than or equal to your rec, you get back up and end your turn. If the number you rolled is lower, it has to be lower, you fail and you're just forced to retry it on your next turn. That repeats until you succeed, except every time you fail, the number you have to roll gets lowered by 1. There will be that shitty situation where you fail every single roll and it gets all the way to 1, and so you don't even roll, you just get up. The stats of characters given are balanced based off of really whatever the fuck the devs think makes sense. Sometimes I think they're dumb as fuck, but there is a baseline that they gave. I don't remember where I saw this, or even if it's even still accurate, but the baseline is like 5 HP, 0, 0, 0, 5 rec, and I think it's supposed to be +1, so 5 HP, 0, 0, 0, 5, and then +1 to any stat, but I'm not sure because QP exists and then Kai also exists. Anytime a stat point is added somewhere, it's taken somewhere else. So for example, if we look at the 5 HP 0005, if they decide to give somebody 6 HP, they're going to take maybe like 1 defense. That's usually how they think. So more HP to make them a little less able to defend themselves. Now it's time to cover the nuances in the gameplay, because every character is actually different in the way that they want to play the game. So I'm going to quickly address passives. Recently the characters added have been getting a little ridiculous with their kits, but we'll stick to passives first. The first passives are pretty simple, and oftentimes their passives are taken into account when balancing their stats. So if it's a really strong passive, it might merit them losing a stat sometimes. Stronger passives often result in more negative stats to compensate though, so vice versa too. Sometimes they give a character a passive to justify them having higher stats than what would usually be allowed to. It just goes however the devs decide makes sense. These passives often completely define a character and how you would play them, or at least how they want to play. Sometimes you just ignore that shit. Speaking of playstyles, let's get into how someone goes about defining their playstyle. This is a big part of the game. In Mario Party, you buy items to help you in situations. You know, you buy mushroom to help you, give you a +5, or maybe double dice, I think it was. You roll 2 dice to move, or like, you know, you warp to the star type, all that stuff. But in OJ, you have cards. You obtain cards in a plethora of ways, but I'll address the main, most common card panels. I'm going to explain panels later, so I'll just say that's the main way you get them. Cards are used differently depending on their card type. Boost cards have various beneficial effects targeting their user, and sometimes negative effects from an opponent. Battle cards can only be used in battle. Most give a bonus to the user, some affect the opponent, and a select few are arguably detrimental. Trap cards are used on the field and are placed on the panel they are used on. When someone lands on the trap panel, they are tagged with a detrimental effect listed on the card. Event cards effectively target everyone at once. They're almost all risk reward and have technical benefits for the user depending on the game plan. Gift cards are cards that apply a passive effect that is active as long as it is held. As long as you hold the gift card, that effect is active. Most cards have a cost. Stars are the way you pay these costs off. They're the same as coins in Mario Party. Card costs are listed on the right side. Green stars mean 1, yellow stars mean 10, and gray stars means that the card's cost changes depending on circumstances. The left side indicates the level requirement for using the card in the first place. The cards in the deck are decided by all 4 players together. Each player picks 10 cards to put into the deck, which makes up 40 out of the 48 cards in the deck. The last 8 cards out of the 48 card deck are blank copies of the last card type, which are called hypers. Each hyper is specific to every character, and they're the final way the characters are set apart. Hyper cards fall into the previously mentioned card types and are used accordingly and have matching effects. As in, there's hypers that are boost cards, there are hypers that are event cards, there's a hyper that's a gifts card. Hypers are intended to be powerful cards with unique effects that just really change the way a character plays. At least at the beginning. Sometimes it's not the case. Other times, a character's hyper is so ass, you just ignore it. I'm going to address the maps now. Each map is designed differently, whether they loop on themselves or bar progression at certain intervals, or literally they're split in half. There's a bunch of different ways that the maps are designed. Each map is made of specific tiles. Basic tiles are extremely uncommon, and some maps actually just don't have them. Star panels, when you roll onto them, they prompt you to roll a dice. They reward you a certain amount of stars, matching the number that you roll. This is affected by the star multiplier. Drop panels function the exact same as star panels, just the opposite. You lose into the game. Draw panels make you draw the card of the deck. This is, again, the main way in which you get cards. Encounter panels prompt a battle between one of the 3 randomly chosen mobs in the game: Chicken, Roboball, and Seagull. Everyone hates 7 goal, that's what we call them. Quickly addressing them, because I probably won't later. Each has 1 strength and 2 weaknesses. Chicken is good at evading, Roboball is good at defending, and Seagull is good at attacking. Winning the fight rewards a couple stars and 1 win. Losing the fight gives half your stars to the mob. Those stars are given to whoever kills that specific mob. Unless nobody kills them, they'll just hold on to those stars forever. The previous 4 tiles are the most common tiles, and I'm confident they're present in every map. Warp panels force you to warp to a different warp panel on the map chosen at random. There's no knowing where it's going to send you. You just have to hope it sends you to a good spot. Move panels prompt you to roll a dice. You move the corresponding amount of panels, so it's just a go again. Warp move panels warp you to a randomly chosen warp panel. Doesn't have to be another warp move, and then it prompts you to roll a dice, and you just move from there. Heal panels heal you for 1 HP. Damage panels damage you for 1 HP. But unless I'm missing some kind of other panel that just like exists on like that one map or something, has special or whatever, those are all the panels. Every panel in the game, except for warp panels, can be applied with a double modifier. Sometimes they're just permanently like that, like the map is built around them. When you see ×2 on a panel, it just means double whatever that panel does. The last panel is the home panel. Each map has 4 home panels exactly. Each home panel is marked 1 through 4, 1 for each player. The players start the match on their corresponding home panel, and they are necessary to win the game. When the game starts, everyone has the same objective: obtain 10 stars. Once a player obtains 10 stars, the next step is to land on a home panel. Any home panel will do the trick. When you land on a home panel, regardless of whether or not you have your normal requirement, you will heal 1 HP. Unless you're, of course, already at full HP. The only exception is your own home panel, which, when reaching it, you are prompted to stop on top of it, even if your movement roll would have you keep going. Once you land on a home panel after achieving your normal requirement, you norma, or level up if you will. You are prompted to pick the next normal requirement. The requirements depend on your current normal level and go in this order. Norma 1, 10 stars. Norma 2, 30 stars or 2 wins. Norma 3, 70 stars or 5 wins. Norma 4, 120 stars or 9 wins. Norma 5, 200 stars or 14 wins. The star requirements grow exponentially, but in response, you gain a star multiplier to your Norma level. Simply put, at Norma 2, any stars you gain are multiplied by 2. Same with any of the other ones. The ultimate goal of the game is to reach Norma 6, in which you just automatically win. Each match has a turn order dictated by the player's number. I'm going to take this chance to address turn functions. When your turn starts, you're shown 2 buttons: move or card. Move simply prompts you to roll a dice and move that number of panels, same as any other board game. And card pretty obviously lets you use a card in your hand. The hand limit is 3, by the way. You can only use cards at the beginning of your turn unless the card is a battle card. When you are moving on the map and you pass by a player, you can choose whether or not to start a battle. When you start a battle with someone, it starts with your attack. If your opponent survives, it is then their chance to counterattack. Battle cards can only be used at the start of the battle before either player rolls any dice, so you have to decide whether to trust in your luck or play it safe and use a card that might help you. When you choose to battle an opponent, you end your turn on the same panel as them, triggering whatever panel you're standing on, of course. If you won that battle, you gain 2 wins. If you die to your opponent after choosing to fight them, you will stop on that panel, but you do not trigger the panel. And of course, as I mentioned before, victory in battle results in you taking half of your opponent's stars and the 2 wins. Every map has a designated event list. Events probably single-handedly decide the outcome of a match more so than anything else in the game. Events apply random effects at designated intervals. Some events happen every 5 chapters and others happen every 8. Chapters are what a full turn is called, by the way. You can see what chapter you're on by viewing the deck, which is somewhere visible on the map, or maybe in the middle on the side or somewhere. There is one map event that is completely unique and just doesn't follow that system, and it's the boss event. The boss event is an event that changes all the encounter panels into boss panels. Yeah, there was actually one more panel. Boss panels force you to fight a boss, obviously. Defeating a boss rewards you some stars, including any stars they took from players via murder, and a whopping 4 wins. The boss you fight is decided by the map you're on. There's 4 bosses. Maps from Sora or Shiguri spawn Shifu Robot, QP shooting map spawn Store Manager, Flying Red Barrel map spawn Flying Castle, and 100% Orange Juice original maps spawn the ultimate Herald of Destruction, better known as Moss Golem. And look, please seriously look at these fucking stats. This one, he's a menace. Even though I said all that, sometimes bosses just spawn on the map just because. Store Manager spawns on one of the OJ original maps. I think he also spawns on a Christmas map. Just kind of take that with a grain of salt. That's the usual how it goes, though. Usually they spawn on those specific maps that match the game they're from. The boss event is triggered every time a player reaches Norma 4. The distinction is important because it means if someone becomes Norma 4, the boss dies 4 chapters later and someone else becomes Norma 4, the boss will respawn. At full HP, of course. The boss trigger only happens when the boss isn't already on the map, meaning if someone becomes Norma 4 while the boss is low, they won't just respawn and go back to full HP or something. If you kept track of everything I've talked about so far, you might have noticed something. You have very little direct control of anything that happens in this game. The result of almost every decision you make is subject to a dice roll and can simply fail you at the worst times. On top of that, a lot of the things I said are subject to change in specific cases. All the rules that I said, just know that something might break for me, even maybe a card in the game. But that chaos is part of the charm and what I find so fun about the game. I can never find myself to get genuinely upset about anything in this game or any other players because the fact that I know that none of that happened was really up to me. How am I supposed to take a game so far removed from skill any kind of seriously? Of course, the cute characters and the now fully voiced cast are just another point of charm. On top of the fact that the game is very cheap, sitting at $6.99. Said price is made even more negligent by the constant sale. Any holiday prompts a sale. Sometimes the season change prompts a sale. Sometimes they just go on sale because they just feel like it. If you're not even sure whether or not you want to buy and play the game, there's a demo. Basically, I love OJ and it has a very special place in my heart.